Okay. Okay, and we are good to go.
Good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon. Am I on board? Good afternoon, everybody. Hooray. Happy Black History Month. I must say that. Happy Black History Month. I am so glad and honored that you, great people of California, joined us in a panel discussion on confronting challenges in the African American health panel and the disparities that we have as African Americans in our health system. Well, I do understand that in order for us to get better as a unit, in order for us to get better in the world, we have to have uncomfortable conversations. And in those uncomfortable conversations, birth solutions to how we can make this world better. And we're already making this world better. With the contribution that these great panelists contribute to our community. This is wonderful. I am so honored and pleased to have such knowledgeable and professional and it's Black excellence. Give a round of applause. On our panel, we have the Dr. Vincent Fuqua. We have Shelly, Stinson, the director of UCSF. And we have the Miss Monique Wagner. And we have our very own Dr. Cedric. We have an inside joke. He's gonna always be Frederick. So this is more like a living room setting. We're just gonna give our, like I mentioned before, our unfiltered answers and opinions about things that we see troubling in our health system concerning African American people of color. And I'm just gonna jump right in. Okay, y'all wanna jump right in? First question that I have on the panel today is, what does Black wellness and health means to you? And what are the broader implications of disparities? Anybody can start. Frederick.
Okay. Black health and wellness to me really includes that all people of color, especially LGBT people, can expect the same level of health care that everyone else expects. But yet there's a secret thing that we all should be that we can say basically.
That's a really important question and very loaded because what initially popped in my head was the lack of honest information related to how we make decisions and choices about how we receive our health care. So where do we go? Who do we see who's best for us? And how to help us to understand what particular medication works best for me. What does medical support look like? When I go to the doctor, I feel rushed or like an experiment. I don't want to feel like an experiment. And there's just so much going on. We have trauma relative to medicine because we have that experience. So there really needs to be an emotional piece or psychosocial support for us in place before we make a move towards making those decisions. And I just would start right there because these jobs like COVID was a prime
Yeah.
The prime example really of how it feels to me to be Black accessing medical care from close
Yeah, I know. For me, the thing that came to my mind when you asked questions regarding Black wellness, the first thing that came to my mind was, one is for us as Black African Americans to really start taking our health seriously. We recognize the system itself doesn't do us justice. That's just the fact. As I work for the health department, I know that our system is not good at all. that's taking care of our Black African American individuals. And so I feel that's important for us to start taking care of ourselves and to really understand the importance it is that, you know what, we deserve the treatment, we deserve the wellness, we deserve every services that are out there for others, for ourselves as well.
I feel the same way. I feel like, we deserve to actually get the benefits and mandatory of, having certain medications and healthcare. And, just be pertains to our needs and don't have to feel like, oh, well, I'm scared to go to the doctor to find out what's going on, what they're going to tell me. It's better to sit there and know at an early stage than to sit there and find out later on when it's too late.
Ms. Stinson, do you feel like at some times what part of the blame that people of color carry, or do you feel like we carry a blame at all when it comes to, we already know what we're facing when it comes to the healthcare field? Do you feel like, on what percentage and why do you feel like we could take some responsibility on that?
The word blame is not a part of my vocabulary.
Good.
We make decisions based on the information that we have and how it impacts us. And solutions, I'm a very solution-oriented person. Fear is very much in command in the Black community as it relates to several things. We're talking about medical care and wellness. It's present. It sits in our lab. It's in the backseat. It's the exact thing that has us showing up at stage 4 in the hospital. And some things come say, well, okay, you had a symptom stage 1 where you wouldn't be at stage 4. So in breaking that fear, I typically just connect to the lack of good, honest education and information. We are each lost ourselves. We are a brother's keeper. Yeah. But sometimes our brothers don't want to be kept.
Right.
I can just give you this information, you do it. So, I think it's addressing facing that fear with our and our wellness. It's just not personal. Very much.
What, Monique, what do you feel like the biggest, when it comes down to transgender and especially women of color of trans experience, what do you feel like is the most disproportionate stigma, I should say, that we carry, that we have when it comes down to the healthcare?
I'll say the most stigma, especially like for me, is all about, the way that you sit there and you carry yourself, the way you portray yourself. You go to a doctor's office and you look one way, but your ID says another way. So that kind of hinders you because you want to sit there and be called, your female pronouns, but your ID says something else. So you kind of like shy away from going to the doctor. Don't want to be seen. Well, I could sit there and talk to one of my homegirls about it, or just like Google stuff. So that's a real big hindrance when you don't have the proper identifications and everything like that in place, but you are living your life, you're living your truth, and then you just don't want to feel discriminated against.
Absolutely. Dr. Fuqua, could you answer that?
Yes, yeah. Myself is, repeat the question one time, make sure I get it correctly.
What are the biggest disparities that Black women of color of trans experience have when it comes down to the healthcare system?
Yeah, because I think what it is, especially regarding disparities, and actually just even thinking about barriers regarding that aspect of it, is that we have not, the system itself have not gotten better at making sure that when our trans individuals come to clinics, to services, that they are actually treated with respect, and that they actually are taking the time and really asking them what their needs are, really understanding where they are coming from. I think a lot of times what happens in the system, the healthcare system in general, is we have our own perceptions of how we think things should be, and how people should be treated when they come into clinics and stuff regarding that aspect of it. And really, that is not. We need to be better at understanding the experience for the individuals that actually come into that. And the fact is, there's such a high disparity among trans women, especially among trans Black women, in our in San Francisco. You think of like Adler, you think about Hart, you think about whatever. It's such a high disparity in general among Black African Americans in San Francisco, but specifically among our trans populations regarding that aspect of it. And I think that we, need to do better at being able to address that in a more healing and loving way than we have done.
Absolutely, absolutely. And in those corrections, there's going to come a time where, like I mentioned before, we're going to have uncomfortable conversations, because a lot of people, I think, in the healthcare field, they get complacent with not correcting of themselves. Like vice versa, it's just like, I'm a firm believer of creating an ambiance. That's how I know whether I won't feel comfortable in your medical facility. If I come in there and your receptionist, they don't seem knowledgeable, or they're mispronouncing, or they're giving me the look. If you're a woman of trans experience, we all know that look that we get when we go into doctors' facilities, and that's important. And with that comes like anxiety and depression, not just with women of trans experience, but people of color, especially when we've known that in our culture, we know, well, go to the go to the white doctors, they'll give you the best service. You get what I'm saying? And that's not always the case. That's not always the case. Cedric, answer that. What would you say that? How do we mishandle things to get the correct information when it comes down to getting good medical care?
I think speaking, owning your truth, speaking up for yourself. I mean, not calling it esteem, of course, but my experience of working here with TASE and with the trans been, we try to generate an environment where people feel excited to come in. And I think that everyone doesn't know about what you like, but I think we try to in the right. We try to get everything right so that the clients come in, the patients come in, they feel excited to be there. They know that we're very interested in what's going on with them that day, with them specifically. We don't treat everyone the same, everyone's an individual, but we want them to feel like you're going to get kind of care and attention here that you're expecting, that you deserve. And that's the way it's going to be always. And I wish there was some way that we could take our experience with trans fans and teach the rest of the world. But it really is all about not that look. It's really about not that you're going to the doctor's office and you have to conform to what traditionally we think we have to do when we get to the doctor's office. Our clinic is very different. It's very fast, it's very easy to be yourself, and it's a very inviting place. I think more offices have to start to educate themselves. With knowledge that we have a huge variety of patients, and so those patients aren't feeling welcome. I think the clinic's responsibility, all the people work there, to make a conscious effort to know what they're doing wrong, correct what they're doing. If they have questions, ask patients, do surveys, find out what is your patient experience from their office. What are we doing right? But more importantly, what are we doing wrong? What can we do wrong? The clinic's responsible for doing that so that all patients are receiving the kind of reception that everyone else is receiving. They feel they have to do the kind of reception they're receiving. And they're excited to come back. And they're interested in returning.
Absolutely. Can I answer that?
Of course you can. Of course.
Yeah, the thing that came to my mind regarding that, and just thinking of the medical field, when I'm thinking medical field, I'm not just thinking about just doctors, I'm thinking about the therapists, and regarding all that aspect of it it's learning how to take a community approach, to actually go into the community and to be able to do the work. And I'm just sitting there thinking is the way that should start is when people are in school. When the public get their education, that part of their responsibility is actually to work in the community. Not just sitting at the desk, getting all information. No, you really don't know how to work with the community when you're doing it that way. Aspect of it. That's something that we're trying to do now at the health department. Is before we even go into the community, you need to actually understand before you even start working in there. You need to spend more time, not just one time. So what it does, a lot of people want to go to the community one time and get paid. That doesn't work. You actually got to experience it and build a relationship in the community and be able to do the work that needs to happen.
Absolutely.
There we go. Before.
That's right.
I have to agree with that because they do expect to see you but once the resources how ever often you do so they already prepared to provide questions for students that they what I wanted to address was
my kids are black and Samoan. So we kind of have a double whammy because one thing, we're Samoan, which is totally different from being African American, and then they're black. And when we go to some of the Samoan side, they're prejudiced towards them because they're half and half. So they call them half-half. But it's harder when you have kids of another race that's half Samoan and half black, because you go to the Samoan community and they don't accept you because you're not all Samoan, you're part black. And then you go to the black community, they don't accept you because you're black and Samoan. So my kids had it harder when they were growing up because they were considered half-caste. And it's much harder when you're a parent of kids that are half black and half Samoan, because you have to deal with the stigma. And I have kids that, you know, they have to fight for their identity ever since they were young, because you go to this side, they don't accept you because you're this color, and you're not the right color, you're not the right shade, and that's not fair. People should treat people as human beings, first of all, and then the color factor shouldn't even matter what shade of darkness there are. It should just be human. But in the world we live in, you're judged on the skin color of your complexion. If you're this color, then you go on this side. And if you're that color, you're a minority. And so I had it harder for mine because there were Samoan and black. So in speaking of that part, I'm proud of the African American side and I'm proud of the Samoan side. But my kids had it really hard when they were coming up because, like I said, they weren't accepted. And so I just wanted to address that and bring that to you.
Thank you for that. Thank you for
You're
that.
welcome.
And thank you for sharing that. We know that sometimes it's not easy sharing our personal experience, especially our personal tragedies and our personal stigmas that we have in the healthcare system. So I applaud you. I applaud you for that, and I honor you today. And that leads to my next question, because with that, it's a lot of mistrust when it comes down to the healthcare system. It's a lot of it's disparities on top of mistrust. That's a pandemic all by itself. Ms. Stinson, what advice would you give providers who are interested in talking about mistrust with their patients and employees?
Well, to trust is really towards a trusting relationship with the medical provider.
Yes.
That's a tough nut, because I have to go back to education. I have an issue with people working in the medical industry, providing care to others, when it's just a job. It comes through when they provide you some service, when they talk to you, and then they treat, you know, they make differences. It doesn't treat everyone the same, but different. And understand that is a respectful way to support each other. I think there should be a requirement in school, number one, for some medical providers to learn, and this comes out of my HRD background, because they weren't really teaching HRD in medical school they weren't even back then, right? So you have these doctors coming out with these patients that are living with HIV and not really knowing how to deal with it, and not wanting to. You know, that when they do their little internship or whatever the residency, they just try to get through their residency, and then they're going to go off and do whatever they can, and then they prescribe what kind of person they want to support and provide services. You shouldn't be in the medical field. You don't want to know people, deal with people, serve people, don't do it. Even if you're not a doctor, if you're a nurse, a receptionist, bring a coffee out there, you have to deal with people, and you don't really want to. It's just a job, so you don't do it. Don't do it. It's like the commitment is real. People can tell me. They know, like, okay, your team is not right. So, it's a really good question. There's so much it's so much to unpack. And then you said you and your family knowing the truth about who you are eases the burden that racism puts upon you. Indigenous Samoans look like me. Indigenous people, first people that walk, look like me. We gave birth to the world. There's no separation. Your children are not half and half. We're not half and half. We are the product of the whole bunch. And we manifest. This is our phenotype of our history. We are great. Your children are great. Your family's great. Samoans are great. We're tribal. Your kids have so much to be proud of. Fill them with truth and yourself to fight racism. Because racism is bullshit.
Exactly.
It divides us. You're my sister.
Thank you.
Okay. There's no difference. It's just if we embrace that separation, then we will always be miserable. Don't you think? Okay. I felt you and I understand. I witnessed a lot. I've been through stuff. There's some racist things that I've been through. I got Japanese. Okay. Not half, but I got black Japanese cousins.
Oh, wow.
I understand. Indigenous Japanese in Japan look like that's their features. But the skin, same color. So I say the truth about who we are as people. Humans, our history. So I'm reading now. Actually, I'm reading some things now. The truth gives you the strength and that Wonder Woman had that role.
The lasso.
The lasso.
The lasso.
Yes, the truth. That lasso, the truth, the change, and healing everyone. You can sidestep. No one's better than you. I'm not better than you. You're not better than me, and I'm the best. Me. Right. And you're the best. You. So I'm hugging you from here.
Thank you.
And I don't want you to carry that pain.
All right.
Right. Yeah. Oh my God. I was listening. She just so like this has got to it's really warmed my heart just to hear that. And the thing that for me was coming up, it is the truth, being true to ourselves. As I mentioned, I got my doctorate in clinical psychology, but I did my dissertation on internalized racism among Black gay men. Because I needed to deal with my own internalized racism that I was dealing with for so many years of not accepting me as being a Black man, as a Black gay man. And to be able to allow ourselves to do that work, that healing, it allows us to be true to ourselves. And that's what it's about. Really be true to who we are. Because it is so important. It allows us to empower ourselves, empower others around us. A lot of healing to be able to happen regarding that aspect of it.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Listen, everybody knows the Affordable Health Care Act, okay? The Affordable Health Care Act coverage expands lead and gain and coverage across different type of groups, okay? We know that. However, despite these gains that we gain in the Health Care Act, still Black people suffer disproportionately. How can our social and economic platforms improve by making sure that people of color not only get insured, but stay insured?
I just believe there should be the same resources for us as for anyone else. No matter what race, what color you are, we should be allowed to have the same thing as everyone else. It shouldn't be any type of stigma. It shouldn't be, oh, you have to fall through a certain bracket in order for you to get a certain amount of health care and everything. If it's provided for you, and especially if it's free, then we all should be granted the same thing.
You want to add that?
Yeah, I think the thing in my mind is like politics voting. So with that rollout of the Affordable Care Act, there are areas of the country where people are of different races, yet economically they're all in the same boat. And it's somehow they feel it necessary to cut off their nose despite their face. They rather than ultimately accessing everything that's Affordable Care Act brings, they're thinking these people are going to get something. So I'm gonna vote against it, even though it hurts me. I'm gonna vote against it so they don't get it. And I think there's a narrative that I think we have to change, and especially when we talk about community, is that I think in America often economics speaks much more loudly. And I think more people are not get on the same boat. And I think that there needs to be a message to Americans, a very broad message that says most of us are in the same boat, and that if another group gets something, it doesn't take away from what you're getting, and that there is enough to go around, and that everyone can benefit as a whole if we all learn to be more open and sharing, and think about our political ideas from the standpoint of health, about economics, and not from the racial. I think the Affordable Care Act can benefit so many more people. It can benefit, getting back to your question about African Americans have not been able to, I think, embrace the full aspect of what the Affordable Care Act can give, because they're often, many people are in areas that are ruled or politically not advantageous to them, and that what to do about that, I don't know, but I think that's part of the problem is, if you're living in an area where the majority of voters are not of like mind, you're going to lose out. That's one part of it.
And I know that's one thing, don't mean to cut you
No,
off.
no.
I know that's one thing that we suffer majorly in the South. Being an African American transgender woman from Tuscaloosa, Alabama, when we get those, it is not as broad as it is in California. We don't get those. There are commercials made about the importance of getting insured and staying insured and the Affordable Health Care Act, but because of Alabama's a red state, in our rural areas, our elderly people, our elderly LGBTQ people, especially in the South, doesn't always get this information. And it's a true saying that this is a real true saying that I found to be true, that if you want anything, and this is our fault when it comes down to our culture, because they said if you want anything to not get discovered, put it in a book, because the black man ain't gonna read it. That is a true statement. They said if you want to keep something from this specific culture, put it in the book, because we don't read. And I find that almost offensive. I find it offensive. I find it offensive on my culture part, because we don't take that responsibility to gain knowledge and get what we need to get. So we leave our other race groups at advantage over us, because we don't allow ourselves to just sit down and say, well, let me see what this is about. Because what we do, the first thing we do when we get a little piece of information, we read the big print. Like on the medication, we read the big print. This is Advil. This is a pain reliever. But what we don't take out is that little long strip of paper saying this will cause such and 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 such. Tell me. But tell me honestly. Do you think that we can take some blame at that for not reaching out and getting that information, or are we in positions to reach out and get that information when it comes to African American people or people of color getting insured?
Okay, we cannot, there's no blame.
Okay.
We've been trained.
Okay.
Our minds have been trained to think a certain way.
I asked you these questions before I made it for a reason.
I know that, because I know you. And the genius in this whole room, we cannot speak for the entire population.
Absolutely.
Those that identify as such. You went to college for a reason. I went to college for a reason. We read. Something motivated us to read. Let's say my father was a advocate. And we just always push knowledge. And I'm a baby of the 60s. And the 60s was all about knowledge. knowledge, right? Like learn more, do better, get out of this white supremacist mindset and you know, get yours, do you, be done. You know, we've always we have evidence in our culture of those who've always been progressive and not more than what they have. And then you have those who just don't, but it's not specific to us. Like, that's a human. We're in a system, we're trained in a system that says you're not entitled to this because you look like that. But that entitlement is not a colored thing either because it's economic too. So, from Madam C.J. Walker to Ms. Kyilynn Fowler, a lot of greatness on that path. Along the way, we meet folks. You can pick one up. Those who want to come. Those who don't, just don't. But we do the best that we can.
Maybe come back around.
And come, yeah, it's not that time right now. It's like,
We'll come back to a second and third.
it's like
Some kind of fourth time.
yeah, you're lifting your Uber, be along. Meet me at the destination. But yeah, and you know, those words. Yes.
And also something else you said earlier regarding the whole mistrust aspect of it also is that you mentioned about the trained mind and what it is even with the Affordable Care Act, even with insurance and all that stuff. My thought is a lot of us, who identify as Black African American, we still don't trust the system. Even though they say it's out there, we still feel like they're going to treat us like crap. Because history has shown that, and history continues to show that regarding that aspect of it. Well, let's think about it. We had President Obama. He was treated worse than any other president.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's where our society is, and we see that. We see that. Someone who got to the top
And
in our country.
he was treated poorly for doing the right thing.
Exactly. And we see that. And so even though we know that Affordable Care Act and insurance is out there, we know deep down, okay, is this going to really be real? Are they going to really treat me with the respect that I deserve, just like they do with everyone else? And I think that's the barrier in the battle that we continue to fight to do that, to bring that trust in the relationship.
When he was elected, he won. When he became president, the first thing he said was we all sit down and take together and come to a solution. He invited everyone because he knew he himself cannot come up with a solution for the entire country because there are so many different needs. Like all those who represent those, we sit at the table and we come together and we come up with solutions. Did anybody come sit down? No. They shit on him from year 1 through 8. Yes, that's not so low. But it's like, why, when you're invited to come up with solutions, you don't come to them, you don't show up at all. Because that's not what you want. The system, that means, now we have to be equitable.
Or we have to admit what we're wrong.
That part. We have not been doing things in a way that's healthy. Right. But, we know what all that's about.
And I think that that's part of the battle. The big battle is it's a big battle. And one of the battles for Black African American gay people is we have the same issues other people have. And in addition to that is having to get in additionally uncomfortable spaces.
Right.
But you already know you're going to be treated. Suspect you're going to be treated differently. You already know you're going to be treated differently. You've been treated differently. But you have to push yourself out of that already uncomfortable space into a more uncomfortable space sometimes. And that's hard for people to do. It's really not something that most human beings. As a human being, it's not your nature. You want to, you don't want to have passive resistance. You want to go passive resistance. And often, what's required of us is to go into a space that makes it more uncomfortable than it already is. And that's something that I think that would kind of explain why oftentimes people aren't doing a lot of the preventative work for the health goals that other people may be. It's just a real push. It's like a pushing a rock uphill. It's like it's bad enough when it's a small pebble hill. But you got to boulder, you got to push the camera and say, how do you want to push it?
I have a question. Is the Affordable Care Act access to care system? Or is it access to
Oh, that's a cute question. That is a very interesting question. That's gonna cause some research. That's definitely gonna cause some research. Yeah, I did. Thank you. Since I can always count on you. You the wild card.
But you know, what popped in my head was that 3 strikes
Right.
law. That was access to us. Because, you know, the prisons were built before the laws were built.
True.
In preparation.
In preparation.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you're gonna build a house, you already know you're gonna live there. You're gonna sell it, you know, with the location, what the house gonna function, how many bedrooms, how many bathrooms, gonna be a basement, what, you know. So the prisons were built before they were built, before the laws were broken. So I'm like, okay, ACA, is it access? Yeah, is it access?
Great question.
Okay.
And that leads me to my next question, because we have, out of all of, that is a very excellent question. Very excellent question. You put that on my brain. But we know as African American people and people of color, we suffer the most when it comes down to mental illness. And this is a topic that we really can throw in the basket at any angle. And we're going to come out with different answers when it comes down to the disproportionate stigmas that we have when it comes down to mental illness among the Black community. Why do you feel, and what are the barriers when it comes down to accessing mental health for people of color? Dr.
Yeah, no, I think one of the biggest barriers, one is there's not a lot of us like us. That's one of the biggest barriers themselves. And also the training that we get in school, it is not to work with BIPOC folks. The training that we get are from people who created psychology many, many years ago, who was all white men. And that's the training that they get, and that does not work in the community that we work with. And until they start changing that system and be a lot more open and flexible working with populations, there's going to always be a barrier. There's going to be a huge barrier in the system. And the other one is for our community in general, is to realize, to understand that it is okay if we reach out to others for help. Because we do that in our family. We do that in our family already. But sometimes our family, we take so much on also that we need just an outside person just to help us support us just a little bit, just to help guide us a little bit, regarding that aspect of it. And I think, when we're able to frame it in a way that mental health is not a bad thing, it's just another way where we're taking care of ourselves. It's self-love. It's just a part of a routine thing that we do every day. Getting up, brushing our teeth, taking a shower, whatever it is, mental health is just the exact same thing. It's just taking care of ourselves.
Remember when we used to, back in the day, it's like, oh, we just get that check.
Ooh, yeah.
No, we did used to say that. We did used to say that. But Monique, what I want to ask you is, because we share something so in common. We're women, we're professional women, and then we're women of color. And then we're women of trans experience. All of that, when you look at that, that is a basket full of problems for the medical system. That's how, what do you feel, or do you feel like mental health in trans women contribute to a failed health system?
I do, because when we're already targeted, because we didn't change our sex, we didn't change our gender, so of course they think we're crazy. But we're not. It's like, I didn't get raped, I wasn't abused, this is the way I was born, but they always want to put you in a box and be like, there has to be something wrong. I'm going to send you to the doctor. I'm going to send you to get tested. Like, it just can't be normal. Like, God didn't make you this way. It's like, yeah, He did. You can't sit there and tell me what my Heavenly Father said to me, because you wasn't nothing when He was making. He just implanted me inside of you, so therefore I can come to this earth, and so I can sit there and live on, so I can live on and help other women that's going to be in my shit.
Say it.
Well, I'm saying, yeah.
But myself, my own experience, your experience, and your knowledge. The two categories that we were discussing today together are, for choice of better words, I suppose, encouragement, where I can see this as a failing myself, where I'm interacting with a lot of people and have a lot of mindsets that think prioritize, but where I'm lacking in the support by the staff, by the medical group entirely, as one hand, they're failing to support and encourage me by the support. It's encouragement where I can see this as a failure. The second would be, categorically speaking, would be differences, when we recognize differences in the heart, and the heart doesn't fail. So when we close that opportunity to see the difference in one person or encourage it makes it.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I want you each, in closing, because we're going to close in a minute. I'm having such a good a time with such good people. I wish we had more time, really. But gratitude is a trending topic today. We want to show gratitude. We want to give gratitude, Frederick, to those who deserve it. Give our CEOs, give our executive directors, give our program supervisors, give our managers, even give our leads, each of you, give them a reason why it is important to show gratitude to not only their clients that they serve, the community that they serve, but the people who are doing the work. Dr. Vincent.
I think I'm sorry for me first. I need to talk about this one.
You want to take a shower?
No, I'm chilling too.
But yeah, in general, first of all, gratitude is so important in general, in life, because a lot of times we don't get that. And for someone who's in a position, I think in order for us to continue to do the amazing work that we do, taking care of our community, I think it's important for the leadership to be able to allow gratitude to be able to do that. My supervisor, who I love dearly, one of the things that she does when we meet for staff meeting, she has us talk about something positive about ourselves, to be able to appreciate everything that we are doing, and to name, which I love, is one of the things that she always has us do is to name our hero or heroines, in gratitude, to appreciate, things regarding that, aspect of it. And that's the way, I think it's important for that. And the other thing that I think is always important, which is something that I used to do with my friends and all that stuff, is to take the time to give ourselves self-affirmation. Yes, it is great to get gratitude from others, but we also have to give gratitude to ourselves and to appreciate the beauty that we have, especially as Black and African American folks.
Oh, that's up for yesterday, home. To the CEOs and the leaders and upper management and everybody that's running everything, I just want to say, before you judge me, just get to know me. Learn to accept me, teach me, let me grow. That way when somebody else comes along, as I am and everything like that, you'll know how to handle it. Just don't put a stigma on me right off the bat.
And that is important. That is important too, because it gives us a sense of security too, as a woman of color that share trans experience. It makes me want to come to work. It makes me want to do the work when you show me that you want to learn, that you're teachable.
Right.
That's important. Shelly, add to that.
Gratitude. Well, you know how I'm grateful. Period. I know that standing alone, I can't achieve a lot of goals without family. So we're a team. We're a team before I meet you. We're a team. We're a team after I meet you. We create other teams to move towards goals in common. So like we did first with Educator, right? We did it as a team. It was an idea that came up individually, but it's like I need a team of committed folks to make this happen. So has good impact on the person we want to support. And with that, you know, we're growing or planting seeds for 14 teens to be born within our priority population. So it is vital that CEOs and directors and upper management, I don't like people with those titles, understand they wouldn't be there if it wasn't for the whole team.
Absolutely.
I got a different question for you.
I have an answer.
Go ahead. Give us the answer. Give us the answer.
I think I would say to this group, this massive group, don't be afraid to develop your soft skills. I'm probably older than everyone here.
You are.
But the point I want to make is when I was in school and I grew up, there was a show called Esteem. It was called
Which are?
the TV show. No, it's a show called Mad something. Mad Men.
Oh,
Remember Mad Men? That's what they were
was that the?
guys didn't feel, guys didn't, they were sexist, they were
Yeah.
racist, they were all this stuff, and that was what it was
It's
supposed
white
to be.
businessmen.
And many of our leaders are a little bit that age, a little bit older. And there's a new phrase I've come to embrace about developing your soft skills. These are skills that we never have embraced and never even talked about.
That's true. That's true.
So my message is we should all really looking to investigate and get ourselves and what soft skills are. Because I think that's something that's very lacking. And that person who actually develop those skills is going to be open to all of us. I think they'll be very interested in changing the way things are done, the way things were done, the way things are done. And I think it's look forward to where I want in the future if we have to embrace soft skills. I don't know what
I like to encourage them. Buy a dictionary. Buy a dictionary. Buy it and open it.
Well, read it. What's the dictionary off?
You put $100 bill in there, so make sure you open it. But and then stop asking other people questions about anything. Research, find your own answer. I don't understand, but what happened? These kids, they got Google. What are you asking me for? Don't ask each other. That's someone else's interpretation of the information that they received, and they probably got it from somebody else, rather than obtaining that information themselves. Look at a dictionary, and then ask, and always question information that comes to you. Don't input. Don't just take it because who it came from. Oh, that sounds pretty good. No, find out, and if it's reasonable, okay. If it's not reasonable, make your choice and decision. But I'm not doing that right now. So, to me, that's a personal development. That's a soft skill.
Monique, close us out. Tell the people the importance of diversity and inclusion.
The importance of diversity, I would sit there and say, is because everybody is different. Everybody has an opinion. And if we all come together and everything, then we can all learn from each other.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I want to personally show some gratitude to my esteemed panel. Thank you wholeheartedly. I am going to brag on Dr. Fuqua because it's not every day that I meet people who don't question me or send a feedback and just say yes. And you were the person who just said yes. And I wholeheartedly thank you. Shelly, you already know, girl. I got you. And my sister's alive. Okay. And Frederick, I'll see you every Thursday. I know there's probably not much, but if there are, I do want to give our people, our crowd, an opportunity to ask our panelists any questions of their choice that they feel that are barriers or have been barriers, and I see everybody is shifting. Nobody has any questions?
I have a question. I mean,
Okay, go ahead.
I want to know, okay, mental illness, I've
just studying this because, like, when I was a kid, I mean, I was like a creative kid, and I always thought I was a little off kilter. So I always read biographies of brilliant, not saying I'm brilliant, but of brilliant people who are off kilter, like Winston Churchill, Vivian Lee, people like that. But I found out the lowest number of mental illness on any continent is in Africa, but yet some of the highest numbers of mental illness are Africans on this hemisphere, except for maybe Haiti. And I think that that gasoline middle passage, I think that's where it started, because see, the mental illness thing, that's always concerned me, and there's so many Black people here in the United States who are a little off kilter, but yet in Africa, there's less mental illness in Africa than there is in Europe or Asia, anywhere. It's the lowest. And it is hereditary too, partially, right?
Yeah, and that's what it is. It's a trauma. It's a trauma that we experience here in this country. And that's why it is so high among Black Americans. And also, though, we are misdiagnosed more than any other population also when it comes to mental illness as well. So the combination of that, because I have friends who are also from different countries, who identify as Black, but when they come to this country, you see how they change, how more stuff start impacting them now versus where they used to live. And I think that is because of the intergenerational trauma that we experience from our ancestors all the way up to where we are right now. It's a constant thing that we have to deal with. The fact is, when we walk out that door as Black African Americans, we feel it. We know it. We have to watch it. Pay attention to ourselves and what's going on regarding our surroundings. And that's what adds to it, and that's part of the reason why it's so high in our country, I think. Thank you. Thank you. Great question. Thank you.
It is a great question. Any more from the floor?
I'd like to say thank you, first of all, for everybody. Thank you for the panel. Thank you for my relatives. Beautiful day. I ask for healing, mentally and physically, spiritually, in our walk. Today, I ask creation, would he touch each and one of us in a good way? Like that. All my relations, the whole metacuiase. Oh, thank you.
I would like to thank everybody who joined us online today. I really do. I don't know how many, but those who took out their time today and sat with us and supped with us. And engage with us. Thank you. I wholeheartedly thank you, and stay tuned to the next panel again. Thank you.